So, according to the Federal Reserve, the purpose of this morning's coordinated central bank action is to ease strains in financial markets and to help foster economic activity. Joining us now on the phone in a first on CNBC interview with his reaction is an outspoken critic of the Federal Reserve, Republican presidential candidate and Texas Congressman Ron Paul, calling in from Manchester, New Hampshire. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
We're told that the Fed voted 9-1 for today's action. What do you make of it?
Well, the fact that they voted 9-1 doesn't mean a whole lot. That's what they're in the business of doing, and that is to inflate the currency, to tide people over, and to provide liquidity. And providing liquidity in a situation like this just means that they're buying up bad debt that nobody else wants, and they do this by creating credit. But I think it's sort of a reflection of a panicky type reaction to get everybody doing this, including China. They must really be worried to get together like this. But it can't be good on the long run. All they're doing is it's a form of worldwide quantitative easing, and of course the financial markets seem to be reassured on the short run, but that's happened before. So I think this is just a temporary benefit. I think ultimately, and already it started, it's bad for the dollar, it's bad for inflation, prices will go up, and there'll be a penalty to be paid. They just can't solve the problem of excessive debt and too much inflation with more debt and more inflation.
So if you won power and you had a Fed chairman of your choice, what would you believe the approach should be when you're faced with a liquidity crunch in Europe and clearly the possibility that some major financial institutions could fail? What would you do?
Well, you shouldn't dump it on the American taxpayer, because when we create dollars and buy up this sovereign debt, we more or less are using dollars to buy up Greek debt. I mean, that penalizes the American people. We shouldn't do that. And we should allow the debt to be liquidated. Greece should have liquidated their debt. They should have defaulted 2 years ago. They should have gone into bankruptcy. They shouldn't be propping this up. They keep propping up the debt, propping up the debt. That's why economic growth is not likely to come for a long, long time.
Let me bring you back to your own race. 81% of Americans are dissatisfied with the way in which the country is going, and certainly dissatisfied with Congress. Why do you think that Mitt Romney is not able to better capitalize on that? Clearly he is the favorite to win the GOP race, and yet he's rarely in the lead.
Yeah, I think it's because it's more of the status quo. I think all the other Republican candidates just represent the status quo, more of the same, no change in the foreign policy, no change in the Federal Reserve, no cut in spending. There's nobody. I'm the one that's offered $1 trillion in cuts because I believe the government is so big and so out of control that you have to have real cuts. But all this other talk about cuts, whether it's Romney or anybody else, is just cut and proposed increases, and that's why the American people don't believe that they have a solution. We're just keep doing exactly what we've been doing for 40 years, spending excessively, running up debt, printing the money, and manipulating interest rates, and we're up against the wall now. It doesn't work anymore. Lowering interest rates, it's essentially impossible. That's what they're desperately trying to do today. But, you know, when our interest rates to the banks are down to zero, what are they going to do? And it used to be that the Congress would just spend more money and that would help. But how can they spend more money when there's no money in the Treasury? So, no, Romney and the rest aren't offering anything new.
The most successful independent candidate, Ross Perot, ran in this country when 39% of Americans were dissatisfied with the way in which the country was governed. Gallup now reports that's up to 81%. Many people say that the time is absolutely right for a third party or an independent candidate. In the event that you don't win the GOP nomination, are you still leaving that option open, that you would run as an independent?
I don't plan to do anything like that, because the system is so biased against anything against the one-party system. When you put the Republicans and Democrats together, policies never change. The rhetoric is different, but they all endorse the same foreign policy, monetary policy, and deficit spending. So, but you can't get on ballots, you can't get in the debates, so the system is very, very biased. I mean, we have a very undemocratic system that we have to deal with.
Whilst you don't plan to do it, are you ruling it out as an option?
Well, I have no intention. I don't talk in absolutes, but I can't imagine it. It just seems so unreasonable. I don't want to do it. The system won't permit it, and
but it's still
there's no logic to doing it.
But it's still a possibility from what you're saying.
Well, if you think 1 out of 20 million is a possibility, I guess, but no, that's not going to happen.
Good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Congressman Ron Paul joining us there from Manchester.